Today, my Townsend, and I'm the founder and the president of Divorce Right. And we provide training for HR professionals and company supervisors. And we also provide divorce coaching and case management for your divorcing employees. And I want to introduce you to Paulette Rigo. She is a certified divorce coach, a certified divorce specialist, a credentialed mediator, and she is the director of coaching and management here at Divorce Right. And together we tackle the biggest disruptor in your company, and that is divorce. And today we're going to be talking to a very special guest, Liz Morale, about understanding and supporting LGBTQ plus employees during their divorce. So I'd love to tell you a little bit about Liz. Liz is a mediator, an educator, a divorce coach with a specialization in narcissistic relationships and high conflict personalities. She's the owner of Open Space Mediation and the author of Managing High Conflict Dissolutions in Mediation and Court. Her knowledge of how the nervous system works and understanding of the role it plays in psychological and physiological reactions to trauma, conflict, and anxiety brings a holistic approach to her work with families caught in the high conflict cycle. She uses a holistic approach to divorce mediation, which includes mindfulness, managing trauma, understanding how personality traits and disorders create high conflict in divorce, and learning powerful techniques to de-escalate, disengage, and move on. So thank you so much for being with us today. Welcome to our little LinkedIn Live show, Liz.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've been really looking forward to talking to you both, and I'm excited to be here.
And this is an important topic. So, Paulette, you always get us started. So why don't you take it away?
I would love to. Hello to everyone out there. We're so happy to have this topic have a light shine on it, because when marriage with LGBTQ community became legal back in 2015, therefore, so did divorce. And in this community, we none of us want divorce to be something anyone has to go through. But then now that influx of additional people are marrying, they're also now privy to the experience of divorce, right? So it's a whole new world. So we're talking 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 8 years now. And actually, the first couple of years, I don't think there was any divorce. And as the years started to go on, I started to see a rise, as I'm also sure you have too. So this is a really important topic, everyone. And we're going to see these numbers rise just as any other community, unfortunately. So I'd love seeing that this is something that, you have expertise in. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about some of the unique challenges that the LGBTQ plus couples face when divorcing that perhaps other couples don't.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I'd like to lead first of all with the fact that I am not an attorney. I'm a mediator and a divorce coach. And I think that, of all the couples that I work with, I don't always work with couples who are also working with attorneys, but my clients who are in that community, I always suggest that they find an attorney who really knows the laws in their state, because they're different from state to state. And that's really the heart of some of these biggest challenges. And for me, I try to get in there with the emotional piece and the being a thinking partner. A lot of my clients are suffering from abuse at home, from psychological abuse or even physical abuse. And so that's a big part of what I do with all of my clients, regardless of their orientation. But there are a lot of real huge challenges that LGBTQ couples have when it comes to divorce, because it varies from state to state. And that's why I think it's really important to connect with an attorney in your state who's familiar with those laws. Obviously, marriage wasn't legal across the board until relatively recently. So a lot of people have been in domestic partnerships for longer than they've been married. And
Mhm.
the laws around domestic partnership vary from state to state. So if people have not been married but have been in a common law marriage or a domestic partnership, divorce might look different from state to state. And that's really complicated to figure out. Parental rights is another huge challenge, because sometimes you have an adopted parent and their rights as parents can be challenged depending on where they are, either legally or sort of in the divorce process. And their rights as parents, their biological rights or their adopted rights, can be really confusing, and very complicated in terms of inheritance, parenting rights, obligations, parental decision making. There are complications, of course, if there is a parent or a client that I'm working with who's transgendered, right? Because obviously that comes with a whole host of other issues on top of everything that need to be understood. They need to be supported. There's so much. There's so much more prejudice, in our country, and that to me is like one of the biggest pieces that I would like to share with our listeners today, is understanding that even if you have been through a divorce, if you are supporting someone who is gay or transgendered who's going through a divorce, their experience is going to be completely different than yours. And one of the things that I try really hard to impart on everyone that I'm working with is, if you want to understand something, you really have to lead with empathy. You have to lead with, the understanding that there's a lot that you don't know, right? So being open with your ears and with the knowledge that you don't know will help you support the people in your lives who are experiencing something that's completely different than what you probably experienced.
Right.
So I just like really rambled.
No, I don't think you rambled at all. I mean, first of all, you hit a lot of topics, and there is a lot of prejudice and unknown and confusion. The laws do vary state to state to state. I often say that we do not live in, one country. We live in 50 little countries when it comes to divorce, and other topics too. But when it comes to divorce, the laws are hugely different when you see state to state, county to county, zip code to zip code. You're also going to see the energy of different judges. You're also going to see different experiences. Some judges and attorneys will have zero experience with this, and others will have extensive experience with it. I've worked with several, some in New York City. One partner moved to New Mexico, one stayed in New York City, a couple in local, also a combination of religious and a gay marriage. And boy, talk about complicated. So it is complicated, multi-layered, where you're also dealing with adoption and custody issues. And sometimes you're also dealing with the surrogates, and that can even sometimes come into it too. It can be so much more layered. But the one thing that I see is that the legality of the legal work is typically written in language that does not apply. You often see wife and husband, husband and wife. And all of that means nothing. It has to all be changed and altered. So just the simplicity of a legal document that isn't applicable, if an attorney is not even aware that that language would need to be adapted, then you could see how the domino effect would just,
yeah. There's a lot of work to be done around this, a whole lot of work to be done. And it's
just, and it's new, and let's just face it, how long have we had a judicial system in the United States? Well, a couple hundred years, and it sometimes takes a couple hundred years for things to be updated and changed. So, we'll give them a little bit of slack there, but I do believe that there needs to be some language and templates for that, because to the best of my knowledge, there isn't. So we as mediators and divorce coaches really have to help them be proactive in that. So I think you brought up some really, really good points, Liz. You weren't rambling at all. So, but I'd like to segue a little bit. So how can, a company or even, someone like myself best support employees because their job is also paramount to the process too, who are happen to just be going through a divorce? And does that look different for them from an employee's point of view? How would that really be? Because so the companies are also, wow, this is new for us too. So how did they themselves manage to help them meander through it? How does it look different?
Yeah. Well, as always, if you have an employee or a coworker who is going through something traumatic, there are certain stances that you can take that are always going to be helpful in terms of, being available to listen, being available to giving the employee latitude to take time out, because of course a lot of excuse me, a lot of court things happen during the workday. If there's a way to offload work that someone's doing onto someone else while they're going through this, there's that whole piece of just in general supporting people who are in your workplace who are going through divorce, because it can be extremely traumatic and it can impact productivity. It can impact a person's ability to communicate well. A lot of times people just really shut down. So allowing latitude for whomever is going through that will help them in the long run and help your company. It will help them stay invested if they feel supported. When you are dealing specifically with people whose experiences are different than yours, whether it's a cultural difference or a sexual identity difference, an overall approach to diversity and inclusivity is an important piece to have folded into your company's ethos, right? So that there is flexibility and understanding and opportunities to learn, right? And support. One of the things that I'm going to take a little bit of a detour right here. I have 3 teenagers and 2 of them are queer. And I used to think that I understood and that I was open-minded and that I knew things. And what I have discovered is that I don't. And I think that's something that can be really, really hard for older people to take on board is that even if you think you understand, you probably don't. So putting our preconceived notions over here is really important for anyone, whether you're a mom or an employer. And yeah, and so really just trying to be present for them, encourage them to seek legal counsel. Encourage them to find a therapist if they need that, so they have a safe place to talk through these things. If your company has mental health benefits or EAP benefits, making sure that they know about that. Talk to them about different dispute resolution options, right? They may need an attorney, they probably will, but they might not want to litigate their divorce. So really making sure that they understand what their options are. Talking to a mediator, talking to a divorce coach can really, really support a person in terms of helping them negotiate and understand the legal process, understand the emotional process, offload some of that so that they are able to show up more fully when they do come to work. Again, if you have diversity and inclusivity protocols or leaders in your business, make sure that they are, aware of what's going on. there are so many different ways that you can support a colleague or an employee or a friend who's going through a divorce. And again, I always come back to Bill Eddy's ear, right? Leading with empathy, attention, and respect, and the knowledge that even if you think you know, you may not know, right? So being really present in hearing people really helps them regulate themselves emotionally. And when people are able to operate out of this part of their mind, their logical mind, their problem-solving mind, they're better employees, right? They're better able to make decisions and communicate and manage conflict in a productive way, right? And that's a big piece of that is just being present with empathy and attention and respect.
And respect. And respect is that. And one of the things you had said earlier, and I think that this is what's really important for all of our HR people, anybody that works with employees to understand, is that while their divorce, generally speaking, a divorce is a divorce, they have other matters, particularly around the length of marriage. And you think about, a husband and wife, traditional marriage, if you will, that have been married for 25, 30 years, and that's considered a long-term marriage, and the courts can address that. But to your point earlier, these people have only legally been able to marry for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
So they could have been together for the last 25 or 30 years, just like another, traditional couple. But their marriage is short-term, which impacts the financial
absolutely
spousal support. So for those HR people that are listening here today, understand that they have that additional stressor. They were together with this partner for 30, 40 years, but they are being handled in the courtroom as though that this is a short-term relationship. So that's a stressor. And then the other thing you mentioned that I think that's really powerful is that there are issues around adoption and biological parenthood, because only one of that couple is going to be, if either of the couple is an actual sperm donor or egg donor, or carried the pregnancy, and that has shown up to be problems for these people. Again, additional stressors that a traditional couple doesn't necessarily have. And we want to make sure that they put all of that together so that when you're dealing with them as an HR person, as they walk into your office or they're in their supervisor's office, that you can understand, right? You understand
There's
that
so much at stake.
They're dealing with stuff that's not visible to a traditional married a husband and wife type of relationship. They have added stressors, and that's really and truly the goal of
absolutely. Of course, like the biggest challenges in divorce is finance and children, right? And in the case of gay marriage, it's just like that much bigger. There are so many unknowns. There are so many like legal weird areas that aren't cut and dried. There is even more at stake financially, and in terms of parental rights. I have a really dear friend who had children with her partner, and they dissolved their partnership, and she lost all of her rights to these children. It was a very huge court battle. It was pretty high profile at the time. But I mean, I can't even tell you how traumatizing that is, and how still she struggles. And this was years and years ago. We don't, like, we straight people in traditional marriages and going through traditional, divorces, don't have the same kind of challenges at all. We have our own challenges, but and I don't want to, excuse me, I don't want to overemphasize the difference, like this, the difference between this and this, because of course there are so many things that are also similar, right?
Very.
And that's important to understand too. I don't want to like drive home, like a divisive sort of thought framework here. Like,
Sure.
nuts.
The
But
rules and laws do apply. Yes.
right. And emotionally. But I mean, there are a lot of challenges that street people don't have to ever think about.
Right. Right. And that's just something super important for those. So what can leadership do to recognize these issues, do you think?
Well, I mean, and this is one of those cases where it's probably same across the board, right? I mean, when you see an employee having a hard time focusing or being more distracted or missing work, be able to show up empathetically and understand what's going on. If there's latitude for people to do work from home or take time off to deal with these things, that is going to help them show up and be more productive when they are available. It's going to help them reduce their stress. A lot of times, like I said earlier, people can become withdrawn. The communication can shut down. They might seem less confident. They might be really fearful of judgment. They might be afraid of having people at work know, right? And so
There's
making
so much
sure
shame. There's so much shame in this
there's
process,
so
and it
right.
and people react to it. So you talked about communication. So what kind of communication tips do you have to help these employees feel more supported during, a divorce?
I love Bill Eddy and all of the things that he's brought to us as mediators and coaches. Um, Empathy, attention, respect. Letting people know that there is a safe space for them, but they don't need to feel obliged to talk to you about them. Don't ask them probing personal questions, because again, there's so many challenging feelings that come up during the divorce process that people might really not be willing to share. Making sure that you understand, I mean, just from the very basic, like gender pronoun preferences, like starting there and going all the way down. Being available if they need it, being flexible, helping them problem solve, helping them. Again, I always come back to helping people stay in their problem solving mind, right? If someone starts getting escalated, if someone starts becoming triggered, there's a lot less communication that can happen, right? So you really want to make sure that you are out of your own defensive mode, you're out of your judgment mode, so that the other person can show up not feeling judged or defensive. That's really where the best kind of communication happens. Leading with observations rather than judgment. That's a really huge thing that we can all use.
Give us an example of that.
So when I think about this, I think about the nonviolent communication framework that Marshall Rosenberg put forth, which is leading with an observation, and then a feeling, and then a need, and then a request. So rather than saying, "Why are you always late? These reports are constantly late." These reports are due on Friday. I need your report due in order to complete mine. So that's a need. Would you, and then a request, would you be willing to work with me to find a way so that, there's streamlined communication around this, or there's more information about when I can expect that, right? You're leading with observations, right? Things that happen, not not opinions about it. Like you're always late, or that. And plus, that also sounds
Can
very
you, I've noticed that you've been late.
I've
right.
noticed, I observed that you've been coming and going a little bit later. You've been distracted or spending a little bit a different amount of time on the phone, and just what patterns? Is that what you're saying that
Yeah.
you've seen? Mhm.
Yeah, I think so, because again, you want to help people stay out of feeling judged. You want to help them stay out of defense mode, because defense mode is just like a real barrier
Mhm.
to problem solving. So if you can position yourself and what you're saying in a way that makes it feel like you are trying to problem solve with them. You are on the same side of the table. You have a common issue that you're trying to sort out, and that you're working with them, right? That you're open to hearing their suggestions. That you're able to brainstorm with them. Another thing that I think is really important is just really stay away from personal questions. You don't need to be their best friend. You don't need to be their advisor. You're not their therapist. You want to be supportive, but that there's a line there, right? Where you're not probing, you're not making them feel obliged to tell you things they don't feel comfortable to tell you. Um, there are therapists for that. So
Yeah. So as we get ready to wrap this up, I just wanted to let everybody that's our listeners, if you are a member of SHRM, we have credits for you. So I'm going to put that in the chat box, and so that you can fill out the form and get the credits that you deserve. And we have those each and every week. But as we wrap this up, are there any other tips or techniques that you can share with anybody that has a leadership role that may find themselves in a conversation with the LGBTQ community as they go through this process?
yeah, I think it really all comes down to education, you know, informing yourself about the divorce process where you live, about your state, about the rights and the laws. Obviously you can go down a rabbit hole for months on
Mhm.
this, but having a basic understanding is really key to helping support people who are going through it.
Mhm.
And then really being curious, being open-minded, being regulated yourself, and being mindful that the language that you use is important. It really sets the tone, not just for your conversation with that person, but for the company in general. And you want to be showing what the culture of your company is, right? And the language that you use and the way that you approach people. You obviously need employees to show up in their best, as their best self. Sometimes that's not possible. So use your problem solving brain with the people that you're working with, so that there's a feeling of um, a communal goal, or and of community. Um, and there are so many different ways that you can approach this. And
I
yeah,
must
I'm yeah.
We're here, right? We're here to help anybody. If you have this issue in your workplace, please reach out to us, because we have experts like Liz and others that are here to help your employees as they navigate even more choppy and complicated waters as they move through it. So Liz, thank you so much
Mhm.
for being with us this week. I think that this is a conversation we need to have more of, and we will on a regular basis, as we help your employees go through one of the biggest disruptors and the most challenging times of their life. And we expect people to be able to go through this process, on their own, and it's kind of like asking them to do their own surgery.
Yeah,
So we're
so true.
here, right, we're here for your employees, no matter what the issues are. And I just wanted to let everybody know that next week we're going to be talking with Sherry Morris, and she's going to be talking about the mistakes that your employees make when they choose the way to divorce. And there's a reason for that, because we know that we can save your money and their mental health and well-being by understanding all of the different ways, because it doesn't always have to be, let's just lawyer up and get a shark on this. As a matter of fact, that can be one of the most that can set that family up for failure sometimes when it just changes the energy in the relationship. So Liz, thank you so much. Paulette, I am so excited to have you here by my side with me today. And I thank you all for watching, and these videos are available. You can go on all of our LinkedIn pages, mine and Paulette's, to see some of these in the past if you need those SHRM credits. So we're looking forward to working with you. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. And you can find out what divorce is costing your company by going on to our cost calculator at www.divorcerightinc.com. Thank you all so much, and I appreciate you all being here, and have a great weekend. Bye for now.
Bye.